One of the most important reasons to never tell people what you do is to protect your ideas from judgment and negativity. It might seem harmless or even natural to share your plans and ambitions with those around you, especially when you're excited or passionate. But the truth is, the moment you vocalize your ideas, you open yourself up to a wide range of reactions that can unintentionally hold you back. People tend to judge quickly, sometimes harshly, often without fully understanding what you're trying to accomplish. Their skepticism or criticism can slowly chip away at your confidence, leaving you second, guessing yourself and your potential. You see, ideas in their early stages are fragile. They're like delicate seedlings that need time, care, and patience to grow into something strong and impactful. When you share those ideas too soon, you expose them to the risk of being trampled by doubt. The world is full of naysayers, those who can't see beyond the present moment, or who are unwilling to take a chance on something new. Some may question the feasibility of what you're trying to do. Others may offer unsolicited advice that confuses more than it helps, and a few might even discourage you outright, sometimes unintentionally, but other times out of their own fears and insecurities. This negativity can be poisonous not because it's necessarily true, but because it becomes a loud voice in your head that competes with your own passion and vision. You begin to wonder if you're wasting your time, if your idea is too ambitious or unrealistic. Suddenly, what once felt exciting and possible starts to feel daunting and uncertain. And that is exactly why it's so important to keep your ideas close to your chest in the beginning, to protect that precious mental space where creativity, courage, and motivation thrive. On the other hand, when you keep your work under wraps until you're ready to share something tangible, you build a shield around your energy. You avoid unnecessary doubt and maintain a clarity of purpose. This silence allows you to focus on the actual work instead of having to constantly defend or explain yourself. You're free to experiment, fail quietly, learn, and adjust without the added pressure of public opinion or unsolicited feedback. Also, when you hold back on explaining what you do, you create a natural space for curiosity to grow. People are intrigued by mystery and results far more than by elaborate explanations. When you eventually reveal your achievements or progress, it hits with much greater impact because it's not clouded by years of skepticism or doubt. It shows that you were serious, focused, and persistent enough to see your ideas through despite the noise around you. In addition, guarding your ideas helps you avoid the distraction of trying to convince others. Too often, people spend more energy explaining and justifying their ideas than actually building them. When you don't share prematurely, you preserve your time and mental resources for creation and execution, not for debates and justifications. It's also worth noting that the people you share your ideas with might not always be the right audience. Sometimes even well-meaning friends or family can unintentionally discourage you because they don't understand the risks, the vision, or the commitment it takes to pursue something unconventional. By withholding details until you have concrete results, you filter out the noise and protect your mental well-being. Ultimately, your ideas deserve respect, and that respect starts with how you treat your own ambitions. By keeping what you do to yourself at first, you honor your work enough to give it the space and time it needs to become great. You show that you are serious, focused, and not easily swayed by external opinions. This is not about being secretive for the sake of it, but about creating the right environment for your dreams to grow strong and healthy. So, remember that protecting your ideas from judgment and negativity isn't about hiding who you are. It's about preserving the creative energy, confidence, and motivation that will carry you through the challenges ahead. Trust that when the time is right, Your work will speak louder than any words ever could. Another vital reason to never tell people what you do is to keep your competitive edge intact. In a world that's increasingly fast-paced and interconnected, sharing your plans or projects too openly can sometimes backfire. When you reveal your ideas or the work you're putting effort into, you risk giving others the opportunity to copy, undermine, or preempt you. It's not always malicious, sometimes it's just the reality of competition and human nature, but it's something that everyone pursuing their own path needs to be aware of. Think about it. When you publicly announce your goals, your strategy, or even the unique approach you're taking, you're essentially giving others a roadmap to your efforts. Whether it's a business idea, a creative project, or a personal venture, once those details are out in the open, they lose a degree of their power. Your competitors or even well-meaning acquaintances might use that information to their advantage, maybe by launching a similar project faster, tweaking your concept to make it their own, or simply trying to outshine you by capitalizing on your work. This is why holding your cards close to your chest can be a strategic move. By keeping your plans private, you preserve the originality and exclusivity of your work. It allows you to work in stealth mode, refining your idea without the pressure of external eyes watching every step. This way, you're the one setting the pace, deciding the timing, and controlling the narrative when you finally reveal what you've created. Beyond just protecting your idea from being copied, maintaining this discretion also helps you avoid unnecessary distractions. When you share too much too soon, you invite not only competition, but also unsolicited opinions and advice that can lead you off course. People might tell you what they think you should do, based on their own experiences or fears, rather than supporting your unique vision. Sometimes, these interruptions can slow down your progress or create confusion about what you really want to achieve. Keeping your work under wraps gives you the freedom to explore different approaches, take risks, and even fail in private without the added pressure of public scrutiny. It creates a safe space where innovation can flourish, because you're not constantly worried about how others will react, or if they're trying to take advantage of your efforts. This strategy isn't about being secretive or mistrustful. It's about being smart and strategic. In many industries, the most successful people and companies are those who quietly build their edge before making a splash. They understand that timing and surprise can be powerful tools in creating impact and standing out. Furthermore, when you reveal your work only after you've polished it and achieved some results, your message carries more weight. It shows that you're not just talking, you're delivering. People respect those who let their achievements do the talking because it demonstrates dedication, skill, and follow-through. It's a subtle but powerful way of commanding respect and establishing credibility. There's also a psychological benefit in preserving your competitive edge. When you're focused on the process and not distracted by the opinions or actions of others, your energy stays directed toward your goals. You build resilience and confidence because your motivation comes from within, not from external validation or comparison. You develop a mindset of action rather than reaction, which is essential for long-term success. In addition, by being selective about who you share your work with, you can build a circle of trusted supporters who genuinely want to see you succeed. These are the people who provide constructive feedback, encouragement, and help without trying to compete or steal your ideas. Surrounding yourself with the right kind of energy is crucial, and that starts with being mindful about how much you reveal and to whom. It's worth mentioning that keeping your plans private doesn't mean you're isolated or disconnected. It simply means you're intentional about the information you share. You can still network, collaborate, and learn from others without giving away the key details of what makes your work unique. This balance allows you to grow while protecting the integrity of your vision. Ultimately, protecting your competitive edge is about respecting the value of what you're building. It's about recognizing that your ideas, your process, and your hard work deserve to be shielded until you're ready to share them with the world on your own terms. When you do, you'll do so with confidence, impact, and authenticity. So, never underestimate the power of discretion. By keeping what you do private, you create an environment where your work can thrive, your creativity can blossom, and your success can be yours alone to claim. One of the most powerful reasons to never tell people what you do is to let your results speak for themselves. In a world full of noise and constant chatter, actions always carry more weight than words. When you spend your energy talking about your plans, your goals, or even your progress, you risk diluting the impact of what you're ultimately trying to achieve. People are far more impressed and inspired by tangible results than by promises or explanations, no matter how passionate or detailed those explanations may be. Think about it this way: anyone can talk about what they want to do or what they're working on. It's easy to paint a picture of the future or describe grand ambitions, but until something concrete appears, those words remain just that, words. By focusing on delivering results first, you break through the noise and avoid the common pitfall of overpromising and underdelivering. When your work finally emerges and makes an impact, it carries undeniable proof of your capability and determination. There's a deep satisfaction that comes with showing, not telling. Instead of having to convince people or justify your efforts, you simply present them with what you've created. This shifts the dynamic entirely. Instead of a conversation centered around speculation, doubt, or empty promises, it becomes one of respect, curiosity, and admiration. People start to listen because your success demands their attention. Moreover, letting your results speak for themselves helps you avoid the trap of seeking validation before you've earned it. When you talk too much about what you're doing, you might unconsciously look for approval or reassurance from others. This need for external validation can lead to distraction and a fragile sense of self-worth tied to other people's opinions. By focusing on results, you ground yourself in your own progress, your own milestones, and your own achievements, independent of anyone else's judgment. There's also a strategic advantage in allowing your work to do the talking. When you present a finished product, a completed project, or a tangible outcome, it's difficult for anyone to dispute your effort or the value you've created. It removes ambiguity and puts the focus on what truly matters, the impact you've made. This clarity builds credibility and trust, which are essential for long-term relationships, whether personal or professional. In addition, focusing on results helps you maintain your energy and focus on the process rather than the reaction. When you're busy explaining or defending what you're doing, your attention gets pulled away from actually doing the work. This can lead to wasted time and frustration, but when you let your outcomes shine, you create a cycle of motivation and momentum that propels you forward naturally. It's important to recognize that results don't have to be monumental to carry weight. Even small wins, when consistently delivered, build a reputation of reliability and competence. People notice when you follow through and when your actions align with your words. Over time, these small successes accumulate into a powerful narrative of achievement that no amount of talking could replace. Another benefit is that letting results speak protects you from the judgment and doubt that often come with sharing unfinished work. When you talk about an idea or a project before it's ready, people might critique it prematurely or misunderstand your vision. This can be discouraging and distracting. But when you share only after you've polished your work, you control how it's presented and perceived. Furthermore, by focusing on what you produce rather than what you say, you cultivate a mindset of authenticity and integrity. You show that you value substance over hype and that you're committed to excellence rather than appearances. This builds deep respect among peers, clients, and supporters alike. It's also a reminder that your time and energy are valuable. Instead of spending them convincing others or answering endless questions about your plans, you invest them in creating something meaningful. This practical focus is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Ultimately, letting your results speak for themselves is about embodying the principle of action over words. It's a commitment to living your truth through your achievements, not through explanations or promises. When you do this, you create a powerful legacy that commands attention and respect without having to say a single word about it. So remember, the next time you feel the urge to explain what you're doing or seek validation, pause and ask yourself, can I let my work show who I am instead? The impact you make will always be louder, clearer, and more inspiring than anything you could say. Another crucial reason why you should never tell people what you do is to control your narrative and protect your energy. When you share your work or plans too openly, you give others the power to shape the story around you, often in ways that don't align with your vision or intentions. The truth is, not everyone will understand what you're trying to accomplish, and their interpretations may not always be positive or accurate. By keeping your work private, you maintain control over how and when your story is told, allowing you to present yourself and your achievements exactly as you want. Your energy is one of your most valuable resources. When you reveal your ideas or progress prematurely, you often invite questions, opinions, and even unsolicited advice. While some of this feedback can be helpful, more often than not, it becomes a drain on your motivation and focus. Constantly explaining yourself or defending your choices can lead to frustration and fatigue, distracting you from what really matters, doing the work and moving forward. When you hold your cards close to your chest, you protect yourself from this energy drain. You create a boundary that keeps your mental and emotional resources focused on creation, growth, and progress instead of debate or distraction. This doesn't mean you isolate yourself or reject feedback entirely. Rather, you choose carefully when and with whom you share your story. This intentional sharing helps preserve your passion and drive, making you more resilient against negativity or pressure. Controlling your narrative also helps you avoid being pigeonholed or misunderstood. Sometimes, when people know exactly what you do, they immediately categorize you or form assumptions that may not reflect your full potential or ambitions. You become the person who does X, and that label can limit how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. By withholding details until you're ready to share a complete picture, you keep your identity fluid and open to evolution. This control is empowering. It allows you to craft the message that reflects your growth and accomplishments accurately, rather than letting others define you based on incomplete or premature information. When you finally share your work or story, it has the impact and clarity you intended, free from misconceptions or half-truths. There's also an emotional benefit in managing your narrative carefully. Sharing too much too soon often sets you up for disappointment if things don't go as planned. People may form expectations based on your words, and if you don't meet those expectations immediately, you risk criticism or loss of support. By keeping your journey private, you reduce this pressure and allow yourself the freedom to learn, adapt, and grow without the weight of external judgment. This practice is closely tied to protecting your energy because emotional ups and downs can be exhausting. When you share prematurely, every setback or delay can feel amplified by others' reactions, which can sap your confidence and slow your progress. In contrast, working quietly and showing results only when you're ready allows you to build momentum and confidence internally, without the roller coaster of external highs and lows. Controlling your narrative also means you get to decide the timing and context of your revelations. You can choose the moment when your story will have the most impact, when your work is at its strongest, and when you feel most ready to handle the attention it brings. This strategic approach maximizes the effectiveness of your communication and the respect you command. Another reason to guard your narrative and energy is to avoid burnout. When you're constantly trying to keep others in the loop or manage their reactions, it can become exhausting. You're pulled away from your core mission and forced to expend energy on managing perceptions instead of creating value. By limiting who knows what and when, you create space for sustainable focus and long-term growth. It's also important to recognize that you don't owe anyone an explanation of your journey at every stage. Your work and your progress are yours to own, and you have the right to share them on your own terms. This sense of ownership is vital for maintaining confidence and self-respect. Ultimately, controlling your narrative and protecting your energy is about honoring your process and your pace. It's about recognizing that your journey is unique and that you don't have to fit into anyone else's expectations or timelines. By choosing discretion, you create the optimal environment for your creativity and determination to flourish. So remember that by keeping what you do private, you're not just guarding secrets, you're preserving your power, your passion, and your progress. This control will enable you to show up stronger, clearer, and more confident when the time is right. Another important reason to never tell people what you do is to build genuine relationships beyond your job or your projects. So often, people define each other by what they do for a living or the status attached to their work. When you share too much about your profession, your achievements, or your ambitions, you risk being seen only through that narrow lens. Your identity becomes tied to your work, and relationships can become transactional or superficial. By keeping what you do to yourself, you invite others to connect with you on a deeper, more authentic level, based on who you are as a person, not just what you do. When you reveal your occupation or your goals upfront, it's easy for people to form preconceived notions about you. They might make judgments based on stereotypes, assumptions, or their own experiences related to your field. This can unintentionally limit how they see you and how you see yourself. For instance, someone might admire your job and treat you differently because of it, or conversely, they might feel intimidated, jealous, or dismissive. Neither of those reactions fosters a true connection. Instead, they create barriers. By holding back those details, you allow your character, values, and personality to take center stage. People get to know the real you, the part that isn't filtered through your job title or your accomplishments. This opens the door to relationships built on shared interests, mutual respect, and genuine care rather than status or expectations. You become more approachable, relatable, and human. This also helps prevent the common trap of defining your self-worth by your work. When others only see what you do, it's easy to fall into the habit of measuring your value by external achievements or recognition. This can create pressure to perform, impress, or meet certain standards to maintain your identity in their eyes. It's exhausting and often leads to burnout or a sense of emptiness. By keeping your work private, you remind yourself and others that you are more than your job, You are a complex, multidimensional person with unique passions, strengths, and stories. In addition, this approach encourages curiosity and meaningful conversations. When you don't immediately reveal your profession, people ask different questions and engage with you in a way that reveals more about your personality and world view. This builds deeper understanding and connection, which can be far more fulfilling than surface-level exchanges about careers or accomplishments. There's also the freedom that comes from not being constantly on display as your work. When your job is the first thing people know about you, it can feel like you're always performing or proving yourself. This can add pressure and reduce your sense of authenticity. Keeping your work private allows you to relax and be yourself without the weight of expectations tied to your professional identity. Furthermore, by fostering genuine relationships, you create a support network that values you for who you truly are. These are the people who will stand by you not only in your successes, but also in your struggles, challenges, and growth. They see beyond the surface and connect with your true essence. This kind of support is invaluable and cannot be built solely on professional identity. It's important to understand that building authentic relationships takes time and intention. It requires you to be selective about what you share and when, choosing to open up about your work only when it feels right and relevant. This measured approach protects your personal boundaries and helps maintain balance between your private life and your professional ambitions. By not rushing to tell everyone what you do, you also give yourself room to grow and evolve without constant scrutiny. Sometimes your work or goals change, and when you've kept those details private, you don't have to worry about explaining or justifying those shifts to everyone. This freedom is crucial for creativity and innovation because it allows you to explore new directions without the weight of external expectations. Ultimately, choosing not to define yourself by your work in every social interaction allows you to build relationships that are genuine, lasting, and enriching. It ensures that people value you for the full spectrum of who you are, not just a single aspect of your life. This kind of connection nurtures your well-being, fuels your confidence, and supports your overall growth as a person. So, remember, your value is not just in what you do, but in who you are. By keeping your work to yourself until the right time, you create space for real, meaningful relationships to flourish. Relationships that can sustain you through every phase of your journey.